Peace and blessings to you all, family and friends. Peace and blessings to you all. Yeah, it's going to be a wonderful night tonight. Come on in the room. We're about to start up. Have a seat. Come on in the room. Get close. Get closer. Get your pens, your papers, the pads, your pencils, whatever necessary for you to take notes. Peace and wisdom, my brother. Come on in. Come on in. All right. So we're going to start up. All right. And so I'm going to be talking to the class as well as the camera. So, you know, for the viewers, I'm going to be focusing in on the congregation and the camera. And so we're going to start up right now. We're going to be talking about what is darkness and gloom. What is darkness? Simply, what is a silhouette? So we're going to be talking about what in the hell is a silhouette. Now, those of you that may not know what a silhouette is, y'all keep it down. Keep it down. I'm doing my lesson. We got children in the back, so what I'm going to talk about and explain is what in the hell is a silhouette. Now, many of you may not know the synonym for silhouette. A silhouette is what you would call a shadow. So what the hell is a shadow? What does it mean? I'm going to break it down because simply you cannot behold or you cannot see a silhouette without the source of light. You will need the source of light to see a silhouette or a shadow. I can cut this light on here, but I doubt you'll see anything. You see this light? I just wanted to try to show you a shadow. Okay, but I don't think it's showing up in the back. But anyway, you cannot see your silhouette or shadow without some source of light. And why is that? We will explain. In darkness, you cannot see a shadow at all. So in darkness, you cannot see a shadow. It's impossible to behold your shadow in gloominess, or what you will call darkness. A shadow cannot be seen in darkness. You can forget about it. You will need some source of light to detect your shadow or silhouette. So we know that illumination always exposes truth. Illumination always exposes truth. What do I mean by that? What's done in the dark will always come to the light. What's done in the dark will find its way to emerge into the light. I like to call it letting the cat out the bag. Because sooner or later the cat is going to jump out the bag. Or some may say spilling the beans. Sooner or later someone is going to spill the beans. Whether you let the cat out the hat, whether you let the cat out the bag, whether you spill the beans, that's all likened to what's being done in the dark simply will eventually emerge to the light. As above, so below. So below as above. And so whatever is done in the darkness will soon be conveyed to illumination. I'm going to say that again. Whatever is done in the darkness will soon or eventually be conveyed to illumination. So what the hell is a shadow? What the hell is a silhouette, some may say? Well, before we go into that, we're going to pull a couple Bible verses. Let's first go to Mark 4 and 22. This is Mark 4 and 22. And so, if you would turn to St. Mark 4 and 22, for there is nothing hid which shall not be made manifested, neither was anything kept secret, but that it should come abroad. So, as above, so below. There is nothing hid which shall not be manifested. That's Mark 4 and 22. Why? Because like I said, illumination will always show up truth or expose truth. Darkness will soon be conveyed to the light. Here's another one, Luke 8:17, because this all falls in on the lesson entitled, What is a Shadow or a Silhouette? So we'll give you one more, Luke 8:17. So let's head over to Luke chapter 8:17. And it reads, For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest. For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad. All right, so now I'm going to explain what a shadow is, what they call a silhouette. All you listen up, all you guys, you sisters, listen up. Simply what a shadow is, or what they call a silhouette, because I know most of you have not even thought of this. Most of you have not even brought this to mind. What is a shadow? We see a shadow. We see shadows each and every day. You never stop and just question yourself on what is a shadow or a silhouette? Well, a shadow or a silhouette is the true counterpart of what physicality really is. I'm going to say that again. A shadow or a silhouette is the true counterpart or reflection or impression of what the physical really is. So that's basically, to wrap it up in a nutshell, your shadow, or some may say silhouette, is the true counterpart or the true impression or the true reflection or what the physical or physicality really is. And that is chains of darkness. That is what your shadow symbolizes. That is what your shadow or silhouette denotes. Your shadow or silhouette denotes that you are in chains of darkness, or what some may say fetters of darkness or shackles of darkness. Your physical state, which is your body, your anatomy, is a representation of fetters of darkness, chains of darkness, shackles of darkness, that what? That incarcerates the spirit. So your spirit, aka, which is your mind, your consciousness, your spirit, also known as your consciousness, is illumination. We know that. We know that. When you're dealing with the brain, when you're dealing with intelligence, you're talking about illumination. Illumination is also known as enlightenment, which reflects on the spirit man, or reflects on the consciousness. Because the brain doesn't store memory. The brain doesn't store memory. What truly stores memory is the spirit. Because the spirit is really the brain. This is why the left and right hemisphere of the brain, in the middle, you have a small gland which is known as the pineal gland, which is the shape of a pine cone, which is known as the seat of the soul. This is where the spirit resides. This is where the spirit dwells, within the pineal, or pineal, which the Bible speaks of. And so we know that your spirit, also known as your mental capacity, consciousness, that is illumination. That is in reference to the light. Your spirit is in reference to the light. Your consciousness is in reference to the light. The anatomy, or what you call physicality, the physical, that's in reference to darkness. That's in reference to gloominess. So once again, your spirit, which is your mind, your consciousness, is in reference to the light, and your physicality, your physical, or the anatomy, which is the body, is in reference to what? Darkness. And your shadow, or your silhouette, reminds you of what the physical, or you may say the anatomy, really is. which is none other than chains of darkness, fetters of darkness. The spirit is incarcerated in chains of darkness. And so when you step outside on a sunny day, brothers and sisters, and you see your shadow, that is a reminder of what the physical truly are, which is chains of darkness, because your spirit is in reference to light. That is what? That is in custody in darkness. It's the darkness has your spirit in custody. The spirit is the mind, which is trapped in the body. The soul, or what you call consciousness, which is trapped in the body, which the body is in reference to darkness. And so that's what your shadow is. That's what your silhouette is. It just reminds you that this shitty ass flesh that we're in is chains of darkness. Is that in the Bible? Of course, that's in the Bible. We'll go to Jude 1 and 6. So let's head over to Jude 1 and 6. Any angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he had reserved in everlasting chains under darkness into the judgment of the great day. This is very figuratively, this is very symbolic, allegorical, metaphorical phrase. This is a militarized verse. This verse is not literal. The angels goes back to Greek angelos, which means messengers. Now, who were those messengers? The children of Israel. Before they received the title Israel, they was known as the sons and daughters of God. Well, they did not keep their first estate, meaning that we did not stay within the constitution of the Most High, meaning that we did not live up to the Most High law, statutes, and commands, his policies. We left his rules and regulations that he prescribed to us. We did not do them, and so we left that estate. We left our habitation, because we also know that Israel eventually married outside their holy lineage. They married strange nations of sons and daughters, and we left our own habitation. Our habitation was to stay within our region, to keep our laws and our customs and traditions that the Most High prescribed to us. That was our habitation, for us to stay within those boundaries. But we left outside of those boundaries. We gave up the policies of the Most High, the laws, statutes, and commandments, and we started dealing with other nations eventually. And that is entitled not keeping or staying within your habitation. And so what happened? As a result, what was the effect of that cost? The Most High basically constructed everlasting chains of darkness, man. He applied to us everlasting chains of darkness. Now, what are those everlasting chains of darkness? Those everlasting chains of darkness is what you call the body, the physicality, the flesh. Okay? That is what it's called, chains of darkness, the flesh, the physical. And he reserved us, into these chains of darkness, into the great day of judgment. Now, when is judgment? Judgment is what they call death. That time when you expire, when you're no longer living. Okay? And so death, is basically just a transmutation process, because you really don't die. I'm not going to get into that lesson, but you really don't die. But if you do die, you wake up into another reality. And so we are in chains of darkness into judgment. We are in these bodies until the expiration date comes. Whenever your death comes, you're going to remain in these chains of darkness. And if you don't believe the bodies are chains of darkness, you don't believe your body is in reference to chains of darkness, then your shadow shows you, your shadow or silhouette shows you what the body truly really is. Chains of darkness. And so with that being said, the only thing, okay, brothers and sisters, I have a lot of notes to go over. So simply, your shadow brings back to your mind, also your soul, your consciousness. Your shadow brings back to the mind of the man, woman, and child truly what the physical really is. Okay? And it's the darkness that keeps the spirit in custody. As we went over Jude 1 and 6. Also, this is in 2 Peter 2 and 4. 2 Peter 2 and 4. Okay, it says in 2 Peter 2 and 4, if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved into the judgment. And that's talking about how we lost our celestial bodies to take upon a corruptible body. A great video for you guys to look at. I did a video called Coats of Skins. Look at that video. I did a video called Coats of Skins. This video explains how we lost that celestial form and we took upon a terrestrial form. And so that's what it's talking about, man. 2 Peter 2 and 4, for if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell and delivered them into chains of darkness, we lost that heavenly state. We lost those heavenly bodies in the beginning. We had supernatural celestial bodies that we lost, and as punishment, the Most High, you know, He applied to us destructible bodies, bodies that is corruptible, bodies that is vulnerable, bodies that is subject to death. Okay. And so, yeah, we'll show you that in Genesis. This is Genesis 3, chapter 3, verse 21. And to Adam also and to his wife did the Lord God make coats of skin and clothe them. The coats of skin is the fleshly form that we took upon. In the beginning of time, we did not have fleshly form. We had supernaturalistic celestial bodies, but as a result of sin, the Most High punished us, giving us corruptible bodies. You know what these corruptible bodies is? Chains of darkness. That's what your shadow represents. Okay? That's what a shadow represents. Nothing more, nothing less, man. All right? And so this is why Isaiah 60 and 2 talks about gross darkness covering the people. Even though we know Isaiah 60 and 2 is twofold, because Isaiah 60 and 2 also talks about how many people have been deceived with false philosophy that's going forth in the world today as false doctrine, lies, and deceit. Even though Isaiah 60 and 2 talks about that, Isaiah 60 and 2 also talks about how gross darkness covered the people. That's talking about how we was subject to these fleshly like bodies, because the flesh body, what you call the physical, the anatomy body, is also in reference to gross darkness. So gross darkness covered us, meaning that in the beginning of time we had celestial bodies that we fell from, and gross darkness covered us. What is that gross darkness? These fleshly vulnerable bodies that is subject to death now. That's what your shadow or your silhouette truly are. It's just to bring to your attention, to bring to your mind, to bring to your spirit, your consciousness of what this meat bag really is. I call it a shit bag, because to be in flesh is to be in a mess. Flesh is a mess, man, and it goes against the star body. It goes against the spirit, which is the light. Okay, you know. And so when you look at Psalms 107 verse 10, we'll go to that. Psalms 107 and 10. Let me bring that out right quick, if I have enough of camera time. Psalms 107 and 10. And it reads, such as sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, being bound in affliction of iron. Okay? That's also synonymous to the spirit which is incarcerated in the flesh. Psalms 107 verse 11. Psalms 107 verse 11. Because they rebelled against the words of God. So as a result, because there's for every action there's a reaction. For every cause there's an effect. So what was the effect of the cause? What was the reaction of the action? It says in Psalms 107 verse 11, as a result, because they rebelled against the words of God, and it said, and contend the counsel of the Most High, meaning we broke the law, statutes, and commandments. We broke the policy. It says, Psalms 107 verse 12, therefore he brought down their heart with labor. They fell down. They fell down, and there was none to help. This is Psalms 107 verse 12. We fell down. What does that mean? That goes back to 2 Peter 2 and 4, when it speaks about 2 Peter 2 and 4, where it speaks about he delivered us into chains of darkness. Jude 1 and 6, the angels that left their habitation. That's what it's talking about. Psalms 107 verse 12. They fell down and there was none to help. We fell, we took a great fall. And as a result, the Most High gave us vulnerable bodies, bodies that is subject to death, corruptible bodies, which is chains of darkness. That's what your shadow reminds you that your body is, chains of darkness. Psalms 107 verse 13. Then they cried unto the Lord in their trouble, and he saved them out of their distress. Okay? Psalms 107 14. He brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death, and he brake their bands in asunder. This is Psalms 107 verse 14. So he brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death, and break their bands asunder. Now this is twofold, because this is talking about bringing them out of darkness. This is talking about spiritual awakening. This is talking about raising your vibration, universal consciousness. This is talking about spiritual awakening. How you now see the works of the elites. You can truly see now, because you're not duped and dumbed down and brainwashed. You really know what the hell going on now. You is spiritually aware and conscious now, that you can see what's truly going on. And also Psalms 107 14 talks about he brought them out of darkness in the shadow of death and break the bands. Also talking about the verge of your death when you die. Because truly when you die, that's when the spirits get severed from the body. That's when your consciousness, that's all you can take at the hands of death. At the hands of death, all you can take, because like I don't like to say death, because you really don't die. But if you do die, you transmutate to another reality. So in that next reality that you're heading to, only thing you can take is consciousness. Only thing you can take is perception. That's the only thing you can take when the body dies. The only thing you can take over to another reality is consciousness. Okay? And so, Psalms 107 14, when it says he brought them out of darkness, that's talking about death, man. That's twofold, because it's talking about death. To be brought out of darkness is for your spirit to evacuate from these chains of darkness. Your spirit to be released from the body. That's brought out of darkness. And the shadow of death, he break the bands asunder. Because the bands that holds your spirit within is the chains of darkness. It's the chains, the flesh, which is the chains that basically incarcerates your spirit, man. When you die, these bands are broken. That's Psalms 107 verse 14. That's what it means to break the bands. And as we can go into also, it speaks about that in Ecclesiastes 12 and 7. It says that the dust returns to the earth and the spirit returns to God who gave it. That's the bands being broken. Ecclesiastes 12 and 7. It says when the dust returns to the earth, that's the bands being broken. That Psalms 107 and 14 is talking about. That's being brought out of darkness. Like I say, because Psalms 107 and 14 is twofold and threefold. And when the bands are broken and when you brought out of darkness, that's when the spirit returns to the Most High who gave it. All right? And that's when you can truly rest in peace. You see? And so, that's all it's talking about, man. On the behalf of what is a shadow, what is a silhouette? A shadow or a silhouette is just, I'm going to say it again, it's just, you know, a shadow brings back to your mind, aka your soul, truly what the physical is, man, which is chains of darkness. And that's why in 1 Peter 4 and 12, it talks about the fiery trial. 1 Peter 4 and 12, let's get that. 1 Peter 4 and 12. 1 Peter 4 and 12. It says, Beloved, think not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you. So what is the fiery trial which is to try you? The fiery trial which is to try you is the flesh, man. As we brought that out in Galatians. Remember we were talking about in Galatians 5 and 17, how the flesh wars against the spirit. That's the fiery trial concerning 1 Peter 4 and 12. It says, think not strange concerning the fiery trial, which is to try you. The flesh is going to test your spirit. The flesh is going to test your spirit. Okay? Also, it talks about in 1 Peter 1 and 7. 1 Peter 1 and 7. Let's go there. I'm just trying to show you what a shadow truly is. A shadow is just a reminder to let you know that you are in chains of darkness. 1 Peter's what? I said 1 and 7. You are in hell, basically. The body, which is chains of darkness, is referred to hell. 1 Peter 1 and 7. The trial of your faith, being much more precious than gold that perish, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Hamashiach Yahushua. And so what it's talking about, who they call Jesus Christ, so what it's talking about, your trials, the fiery trial, it said, which is to try you, though it be tried with fire. What is the fire? The fire is the flesh, man. This is why Paul stated that it's better to marry than to burn. You remember when Paul stated in Corinthians that it's better to marry than to burn? What he's talking about? Talking about to burn with passion. Now how? Because that's in correlation to the flesh. The flesh will burn your ass up, man. The flesh will incinerate your ass, man. That's the fiery trial. That is what's warring against the consciousness, which is the spirit. So it's always mind over matter, which is spirit over flesh. But most brothers and sisters prefer matter over the mind, man. It shouldn't be that way. That's the fiery trial. It's not literal fire. Hell is the body, man. And you're suffering in this body, which is chains of darkness, which is likened unto a damn shadow, because it has your spirit in subjection. Your spirit is in custody to these chains of darkness. And so when you go outside and look at your shadow or your silhouette, that's all the shadow is letting you know. The shadow is reminding your consciousness, which is your spirit, of what the body truly is. You got to overcome these chains of darkness, which is the body that is related to the shadow or what you call a silhouette. You got to overcome this. Revelation 3 and 12. All right. Revelation 3 and 12. Okay. This lesson is about to close within a couple of minutes. Class, just keep your composure. All right. Stay tranquil. Revelation 3 and 12. Him that overcome will I make a pillar in the temple of my God. Overcome what? Overcome this damn flesh, man. Overcome this goddamn meat bag. Him that overcome will I make a pillar in the temple of my God. This is Revelation 3 and 12. And he shall go out no more. That means you won't have to keep reincarnating, man. Because when you don't pass the fiery trial, when you don't overcome the flesh, you reincarnate to go through the reality again, man. And so this is what earth, this is the purpose of life. I don't like to say life, I like to say existence or experience, because that's what life is, existence and experience. This is why your soul comes here. Your soul comes here as soul growth. I like to call the earth a place of soul growth. The earth is a place of soul growth to develop your soul, to experience and level up your soul. And it has to go through this soul growth. Your spirit has to, because you cannot have a body, your spirit cannot dwell here on earth without a form of a body. And so the body is the fiery trial, which tries the spirit, man. And it's very few who overcome. Revelation 3 and 12. He that overcome will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. That means you won't have to go out means to reincarnate again, man. And you won't have to keep reincarnating if you overcome. If you reincarnate, to be born on the earth means you failed. If you were born on the earth, that means you have failed. That means you have failed. I don't even like to say born. You're not born, you just return. No one is born. But if you're born, you return. Okay? Revelation 3 and 21. Here's another one. To him that overcome will I grant to sit with me in my throne. This is what the Hamashiach Yahushai, who they call Jesus Christ, he said, to him that overcome will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame. Because Yahushua, who they call Jesus Christ, he had to be tested in the flesh, man. That's the fiery trial. Yahushua passed the test, man. He said, even as I also overcame, letting you know that it's not impossible to overcome these chains of darkness, man. It's not impossible to raise your vibration, man. He said, also as I overcame, and I'm set down with my Father in the throne. The only way you can sit down with the Father and sup, you know, is to overcome, man, these chains of darkness, which is likened to the flesh. Which when you go outside, your shadow reminds you what your body truly are, which are chains of darkness.